The bruise on Nina Foster's face was 3 days old when she walked into the police station to file a report. She'd covered it with makeup as best she could. Foundation, concealer, powder, layered thick enough that from a distance it looked almost normal. Up close, if someone looked carefully, they'd see the yellowish green of a healing bruise, the slight swelling along her cheekbone. But Nina had learned that most people didn't look carefully. Most people saw what they wanted to see. And what they wanted to see was a woman who was fine. Nina was 29 years old. She worked as a high school English teacher, and her ex-boyfriend, Officer Kyle Brennan of the NYPD, had hit her 4 days ago in the parking lot of her apartment building after she'd refused to have dinner with him. They'd broken up 3 months ago. Nina had left after 18 months of escalating control, jealousy, and emotional abuse that had occasionally turned physical. Kyle had seemed genuinely surprised. When she'd ended things, like he couldn't understand why she'd leave when he loved her so much. His version of love involved monitoring her phone, showing up uninvited at her workplace, accusing her of cheating when she went to lunch with female friends, and 3 times during their relationship, hitting her hard enough to leave marks she'd explained away as clumsiness. For 3 months after the breakup, Kyle had been relentless. Text messages, phone calls, showing up at her apartment, showing up at her school, following her to the gym, to grocery stores, to her parents' house. Nina had told him to stop, had blocked his number, had changed her routine to avoid him. It hadn't worked. And 4 days ago, when Kyle had cornered her in her apartment parking lot and demanded they talk, when Nina had said no and tried to walk away, he'd grabbed her arm and backhanded her across the face, hard enough that she'd stumbled into a parked car. Then he'd leaned in close and said very quietly, "You think you can just walk away from me? I'm a cop, Nina. Who are they going to believe, me or you?" He'd left her there, holding her bleeding face, knowing he was right. But Nina had decided to try anyway, because doing nothing felt like giving up on herself completely. So now she sat in the waiting area of the 47th Precinct, waiting to file a domestic violence report against an officer from the same department, trying not to think about how badly this could go. "Ms. Foster?" A man appeared in the doorway, late 30s, wearing a detective's badge and plain clothes, with dark hair and the kind of tired eyes that suggested he'd seen too much and stopped being surprised by human cruelty. "I'm Detective Anthony Rossi. You're here to file a report?" "Yes." Nina stood following him down a hallway to a small interview room. Detective Rossi gestured to a chair. "Have a seat. Can I get you coffee or water?" "I'm fine, thank you." He sat across from her, pulling out a notepad. "Tell me what happened." Nina took a breath. "My ex-boyfriend assaulted me 4 days ago. I want to file a report and get a restraining order." "Okay, let's start with his name. Kyle Brennan, he's..." Nina hesitated. "He's a police officer with this precinct." Detective Rossi's pen stopped moving. He looked up at her, expression carefully neutral. "Kyle Brennan? You're dating Kyle Brennan?" "I was dating him. We broke up 3 months ago. He won't accept that it's over." "And you're saying he assaulted you?" 4 days ago, in my apartment parking lot, he hit me." Nina touched her cheek where the bruise was hidden under makeup. "I have photos I took right after, and I saw my doctor the next day. She documented the injury." Detective Rossi was quiet for a moment. "Ms. Foster, I need to be straight with you about something. Filing a complaint against a police officer is complicated. There are internal procedures, protocols, investigations that are different from civilian cases." "I know, but he hit me. That's still illegal, right? Even if he's a cop?" "It is. But you should understand that Kyle's colleagues, his union, his supervisors, they're going to close ranks. They're going to question your credibility. They're going to make this very difficult for you." "So I shouldn't file a report? I should just let him get away with hitting me?" "I didn't say that." Detective Rossi's voice was calm but firm. "I'm saying you should know what you're up against, and you should be prepared for the possibility that this doesn't go the way you hope." Nina felt tears burning behind her eyes. "You're a cop. Isn't it your job to investigate when someone reports a crime?" "It is, and I will investigate. But I want you to understand the reality of what happens when officers are accused of domestic violence. Most of the time, they're protected. Most of the time, the victim ends up being treated like the problem. So why even try? Detective Rossi leaned forward slightly. Because sometimes, not often, but sometimes, the right person investigates and actually gives a damn about the truth. And I'm telling you right now, I'm going to investigate this properly. But I need you to be realistic about what that means. Nina looked at this detective who was being more honest than she'd expected. What does it mean? It means Kyle is going to know you filed a report. It means his friends on the force are going to make your life harder. It means you might face retaliation disguised as legitimate police action, traffic stops, questioning, harassment that looks official. He paused. It also means I'm going to build a case against him if the evidence supports what you're saying. But it's going to take time, and you need to be safe while that happens. I have nowhere else to go. I can't afford to move. I can't afford private security. Then we need to be smart about this. Detective Rossi pulled out a card and wrote something on the back. This is my direct number. You call me if Kyle approaches you, threatens you, or if any other officers start harassing you. Day or night, I'll respond. Why would you do that? You don't know me. Detective Rossi's expression changed. Something hard and personal crossed his face. Because I've seen what happens when cops abuse their authority to hurt people they're supposed to protect. And I'm sick of watching it happen without consequences. Nina took the card. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We have a long road ahead. What would you have done? Would you have filed a report, knowing the entire police department might protect your abuser? Or would you have stayed silent to protect yourself? For 5 days, nothing happened. Nina filed her report. She provided photos of the bruise. She gave Detective Rossi the name of her doctor, who documented the injury. She explained the 18 months of abuse, the 3 months of stalking after the breakup, the assault in the parking lot. Detective Rossi took notes, asked detailed questions, treated her like a credible witness instead of a problem to be managed. But Kyle wasn't arrested, wasn't even questioned, as far as Nina could tell. He still showed up to work, still carried a gun and a badge, still had the power to make her life hell. And then, on the 6th day, Nina got pulled over. She'd been driving to work, same route she took every day, obeying all traffic laws, doing nothing wrong. Lights flashed behind her. She pulled over. The officer who approached her window wasn't Kyle. It was his partner, a man named Officer Davis, who Nina had met a few times during her relationship with Kyle. License and registration, Davis said without greeting. Nina handed them over. What did I do wrong? Your taillight is out. No, it's not. I just had my car inspected last month. Are you arguing with me? Nina closed her mouth, waited while Davis took his time checking her documents, watched him walk around her car, clearly looking for something to cite her for. He came back to her window. I'm writing you a warning for the taillight. Get it fixed. After he left, Nina checked her taillight. It was fine, completely functional. The message was clear. We can stop you any time. We can make your life difficult. Back off. That evening, Detective Rossi called. Did you get pulled over today? How did you know? Because Davis is Kyle's closest friend on the force, and the stop was bullshit. I checked your car's inspection record. There's nothing wrong with your taillight. So they're harassing me. They're sending a message. It's going to get worse before it gets better. Should I drop the complaint? That's up to you. But Nina, if you drop it, Kyle learns that he can hit you and threaten you and face 0 consequences. Is that the lesson you want him to learn? Nina thought about the bruise on her face, about 18 months of walking on eggshells, about Kyle's voice saying, who are they going to believe, me or you? No, she said. I want him to face consequences. Then we keep going, but I need you to do something for me. What? Stay aware. Document everything, every traffic stop, every interaction with police, every time Kyle approaches you. Write it down with dates and times, and call me immediately if anything happens that feels threatening. Okay. One more thing. I'm going to give you another number. Someone who can help if things escalate beyond what I can handle through official channels. Another detective? No. Someone who operates differently, outside the system. His name is Vince Rossi. He's my brother. Nina's stomach tightened. Your brother is a cop too? No. My brother is not a cop. He's… Detective Rossi paused. He's the president of a Hells Angels charter. Someone with resources I don't have. Someone who can protect you in ways the police department won't. I don't understand. Vince runs with the Hells Angels. He has connections, people who handle problems the legal system can't touch. If Kyle escalates, if he threatens you seriously, if I can't protect you through official means, you call Vince. He'll make sure you're safe. Are you telling me your brother is in a motorcycle gang? I'm telling you he has resources. That's all you need to know right now. Take his number. Hope you don't need it. But have it if you do. Nina took the number. After hanging up, she stared at it for a long time. A detective's brother, who was a Hells Angels president, who had resources the legal system couldn't touch. She Googled, Vince Rossi, Hells Angels, New York. The results, Rossi, Hells Angels, New York. The results made her hands go cold. Vincent Viper Rossi, 45, was listed as president of the New York City charter of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. Articles described the club as an outlaw motorcycle organization with alleged involvement in drug trafficking, weapons dealing, and violent enforcement of territory. No personal arrests for Vince himself, but his name appeared in multiple investigations. The articles made it clear the Hells Angels weren't just motorcycle enthusiasts. They were an organization that operated outside the law. Detective Anthony Rossi's brother was a Hells Angels president, and he'd just given Nina his phone number. The harassment escalated over the next 2 weeks. Nina got pulled over 3 more times, always by officers who were friends with Kyle, always for violations that didn't exist. A broken headlight that worked fine. Expired registration that was current. Suspicious driving that was just her going to work. Someone keyed her car in the school parking lot. No witnesses, no cameras that happened to be working. Her apartment was randomly selected for a safety inspection by the fire department. They found multiple violations that would cost thousands to fix. Violations that hadn't existed during her last inspection 6 months ago. Kyle himself stayed away, but his message was clear. I can make your life miserable without ever touching you. Detective Rossi kept investigating. I'm building a case. The doctor's documentation is strong. The photos are clear, but the department is slow-walking everything. It's going to take time. How much time? Months, maybe longer. Kyle's union is involved now. They're claiming you're fabricating everything because you're bitter about the breakup. So he's going to get away with it. Through official channels? Probably, but Nina, there are other options. Your brother? My brother. He can make Kyle understand that hitting you was a mistake, that continuing to harass you is an even bigger mistake. What would he do? I don't ask for details. I just know that when Vince gets involved, problems stop being problems. The club doesn't like cops who abuse their authority. They've had their own problems with corrupt officers. When Vince hears about a cop beating his girlfriend, he takes it personally. Nina thought about the fake traffic stops, the keyed car, the fire code violations, the system that was supposed to protect her instead protecting Kyle because he wore a badge. If I call your brother, what happens? You tell him your situation. He decides how to handle it. Kyle stops harassing you. And the cost? There's no cost. Vince doesn't charge people. He helps because… Detective Rossi stopped. Because he has his own reasons for not liking cops who abuse their authority. Nina held Vince Rossi's number in her hand. A Hells Angels president who apparently helped women being harassed by police officers. She made the call. Vince answered on the second ring. The sound of motorcycles rumbled in the background. Vince Rossi. My name is Nina Foster. Your brother Anthony gave me your number. He said you might be able to help with a problem. Hold on. The motorcycle sounds faded. A door closed. Okay, tell me about the problem. Nina explained everything. The relationship with Kyle, the abuse, the assault, the report she'd filed, the harassment from Kyle's fellow officers that had followed. Vince listened without interrupting. Officer Kyle Brennan, he said when she finished. 47th Precinct, dating you for 18 months, hitting you multiple times, currently using his badge to make your life hell after you dared to report him. Yes. My brother is handling the official investigation. He's trying, but the department is protecting Kyle. They always do. Vince's voice carried old anger and the rough edge of someone who'd spent years shouting over motorcycle engines. Nina, I'm going to help you, but I need you to understand what that means. The club doesn't operate through legal channels. We don't file paperwork or wait for investigations. We handle problems directly. What does that mean? It means Kyle is going to have a visit from some brothers who he can't ignore or arrest. And after that visit, he's going to understand that you're under our protection and that touching you or having his cop buddies harass you carries consequences he can't survive. Will he be hurt? Physically? Depends on how smart he is during the conversation, but his understanding of consequences will definitely be expanded. Nina thought about Kyle hitting her in the parking lot, about his smug certainty that his badge made him untouchable. When? She asked. Within 48 hours, stay alert, document everything. If Kyle approaches you before we handle this, call me immediately. I'll have brothers nearby. After hanging up, Nina sat in her apartment, wondering what she'd just set in motion and whether she'd regret it. Nina never learned exactly what Vince Rossi and the Hells Angels said to Kyle Brennan. What she did learn was that 36 hours after her call to Vince, Kyle submitted a transfer request to a different precinct in a different borough. The request was approved immediately, unusual speed for the department's normally glacial transfer process. The harassment stopped. No more fake traffic stops. No more random inspections. Kyle's friends on the force suddenly acted like Nina didn't exist, and Kyle himself never came near her again. Detective Anthony Rossi called her a week later. Kyle transferred out. He'll be working in Staten Island starting next month. You shouldn't see him again. What happened? My brother and some of his club brothers had a conversation with him in a parking lot after Kyle's shift. Kyle was outnumbered 6-1 by guys on motorcycles who don't give a fuck about badges. They explained that you're under the club's protection now, and that any cop who harasses you will find themselves dealing with problems their department can't solve. Did they threaten him? They explained reality. Kyle understood that his badge doesn't protect him from everyone, that some people don't care about his authority, and that continuing to fuck with you would result in consequences that don't involve courts or lawyers. Nina should have felt relieved, safe, vindicated. Instead, she felt complicated, because the justice she'd received hadn't come from the system designed to provide it. It had come from an outlaw motorcycle club that operated outside that system because they knew how thoroughly it failed. Thank you, she said to Detective Rossi, for investigating properly and for connecting me with your brother. You're welcome, but Nina, the official investigation is still ongoing. I'm still building a case. Just because Kyle transferred doesn't mean he shouldn't face formal consequences. Will he? Face consequences. Detective Rossi was quiet for a moment. Honestly, probably not through official channels. The department has already decided to protect him. But he's been moved to a different precinct, away from his support network, where his reputation has been quietly damaged, and he knows that the Hells Angels are watching him now. That's something. It's not justice. No, it's the closest thing to justice we could get within a corrupt system. Real justice would be Kyle losing his badge and facing criminal charges, but we don't live in a world where that happens to cops very often. After hanging up, Nina thought about systems and justice and the difference between what should happen and what actually did. Kyle should have been arrested, should have been charged, should have faced trial and consequences. Instead, he'd been transferred and warned by a motorcycle club. It wasn't enough, but it was more than most women got when they reported abuse by police officers. 3 months later, Nina received a call from an unknown number. Is this Nina Foster? A woman's voice. Yes. My name is Maria Santos. I got your number from Detective Anthony Rossi. He said you might be able to help me. Help you with what? My boyfriend is a police officer. He's been hitting me. I want to leave, but I'm terrified. He said if I ever report him, his friends on the force will make sure I regret it. Nina's breath caught. Have you filed a report? No, I'm too scared. But Detective Rossi said you reported a cop and survived, that you had help from someone who could protect you when the system wouldn't. Nina understood what Maria was really asking. Tell me your story, Nina said. Everything. Over the next year, Nina became an unofficial resource for women being abused by law enforcement officers. Detective Anthony Rossi would quietly refer cases to her, women who'd been assaulted by cops, who were being harassed by officers with badges, who needed protection the police department wouldn't provide. Nina would listen to their stories, document everything. And when official channels failed, which they almost always did, she'd make a phone call to Vince Rossi. Vince and the Hells. Angels would handle it. Nina didn't ask for details. She just knew that abusive cops suddenly found themselves understanding that badges didn't protect them from everyone. Transfers, demotions, and always they stopped harassing the women who'd reported them. The club had their own reasons for helping. Vince explained it to Nina once over coffee at a diner near the clubhouse, a place where tough-looking men in leather vests came and went on Harleys that shook the windows. The Angels have always had problems with corrupt cops, Vince said, his leather vest displaying the club's death head patch. Cops who plant evidence, who shake down businesses, who use their badges to hurt people. We don't like authority being abused. So when my brother tells me about a cop beating his girlfriend, using his badge to terrorize her, yeah, we're going to handle that. You could get in trouble, harassing police officers. We're not harassing them, we're having conversations, explaining that. Their actions have consequences. The club operates in spaces the law doesn't reach. That's where we're effective. Nina started documenting patterns. How many women reported abuse by police? How few of those reports led to actual consequences? How department after department protected officers who beat their partners. She compiled data, wrote reports, started sharing information with journalists and advocacy groups, and slowly public pressure began to build. Articles about police domestic violence, investigations into department cover-ups, calls for independent oversight. Real systemic change was slow, but it was happening. One evening, Nina met with Anthony and Vince Rossi for dinner at the same diner near the clubhouse. It had become an occasional thing, checking in on cases, discussing women who needed help, coordinating between legal investigation and less legal protection. 12 women this year, Nina said, all being abused by cops, all failed by their departments, all safe now because the club intervened. 14, Vince corrected, his leather vest creaking as he reached for his coffee. There were 2 Anthony didn't tell you about, women who came directly to the clubhouse. We handled it. Anthony looked at his brother. You didn't mention those to me. Because you would have felt obligated to investigate officially. This way you have plausible deniability. The club handled club business. They were an odd pair, the detective and the Hells Angels president, brothers who'd chosen very different paths, but who'd found common purpose in protecting women the system abandoned. Why do you do this? Nina asked Vince. The women, I refer to you. You don't ask for payment, don't expect anything in return. Why help? Vince was quiet for a long moment. His rough hands, scarred from years of mechanical work and probably fights, wrapped around his coffee mug. When my brother and I were teenagers, our father was a cop. NYPD, 20 years on the force. Good reputation, respected by everyone. He paused. He was also beating our mother. For years, she tried to report it twice. Both times, his colleagues covered for him, told her she was mistaken, warned her that making trouble for a fellow officer would end badly for her. What happened? Nina asked quietly. She died. Fell down the stairs, according to the official report. Anthony and I knew better. We were there. We heard the argument. We heard the sounds of violence. We found her body. Anthony's expression had gone carefully blank, the look of someone who'd learned to hide old pain. Our father was never charged, Vince continued. His fellow officers called it a tragic accident. Case closed. He retired with full pension 5 years later. I'm so sorry, Nina said. Don't be sorry. Use it. Vince's voice was firm, roughened by years of riding and shouting over engines. Anthony became a cop to try to change the system from inside, I joined the Angels and built a different kind of family. Brothers who don't tolerate abuse, who protect people the system fails. We're both trying to make sure other women don't end up like our mother. Nina understood then. Why Anthony investigated cop-on-civilian violence so thoroughly. Why Vince and the Hells Angels helped women being abused by officers. Why they both operated with such fierce dedication to protecting people the system abandoned. Your mother would be proud, Nina said, of both of you, of what you're building. She'd be alive if someone had protected her, Anthony said quietly. That's what matters, not pride, protection. 5 years after Nina had filed her report against Kyle Brennan, she testified before a state commission investigating police domestic violence. She'd become a recognized advocate, compiled databases showing how many officers committed domestic violence and how rarely they face consequences, connected with other survivors, built networks of support. Her testimony was powerful because it was true, and because she had the data to back up every claim. The system protects abusers when they wear badges, Nina told the commission. I reported an officer who hit me. The department closed ranks. His colleagues harassed me. The investigation was slow-walked into meaninglessness. Without external intervention, I would have faced escalating violence with zero protection from the institution supposedly designed to serve and protect. She didn't mention Vince Rossi or the Hells Angels, didn't explain what external intervention meant. Just planted the truth. The system fails and women survive through means the system doesn't approve of. The commission asked questions. What reforms would help? What oversight mechanisms were needed? Would she recommend specific policy changes? Nina provided detailed recommendations, all based on the cases she'd documented, the women she'd helped, the patterns she'd observed. Real reforms followed. Not enough. Not fast enough. But something. Independent review boards, mandatory reporting of officer-involved domestic violence, consequences that weren't just transfers to different precincts. The system improved, slowly, imperfectly, but measurably. And through it all, Nina continued her other work, the work that happened in shadows, that connected desperate women with a Hells Angels president who protected them when their abusers wore badges. Because systemic reform was important, but individual protection was immediate, and women needed both. One evening, a woman named Casey called Nina's number. My husband is a police captain. He's been beating me for 8 years. I finally left. Now he's using his position to make my life hell. False arrests, threatening my job, turning our kids against me. The department won't investigate him. I'm desperate. Nina listened, documented, and made a call to Vince Rossi. I have a situation, police captain, 8 years of abuse, using his position for retaliation. Name? Nina provided it. I'll get some brothers on it, Vince said. And he did. Because some things hadn't changed. The system was better, but it still failed women regularly. And until it stopped failing them, organizations like the Hells Angels would exist in the gaps, operating outside the law to provide protection. The law promised but didn't deliver. It wasn't ideal. It wasn't what justice was supposed to look like, but it kept women alive, and that was enough. Looking back, would you have called the Hells Angels president? Would you have accepted protection from an outlaw motorcycle club when the police department protected your abuser? Where do you draw the line between legal justice and staying alive? Your participation means a lot to the channel. Please share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below letting us know what you thought. Your feedback and support mean a lot to us. Stay tuned for more exciting stories.